All right, so this is a clip that we're going to be looking at from the Shapiro Sunday special that he does. The intros, by the way, are really cringy. Like they put this music and then it's like some some statement by the person who's the guest. It is nothing short of that intro at least, and the rest of it's pretty bad too. But here, what we're going to be looking at is this is a clip where they were doing an interview with Dave Rubin. This was a long time ago, but I just came across this absolutely hilarious part of this interview with Dave Rubin on the Sunday special. Now, this is going to be interesting. So you guys remember how Kyle Kulinski said that he said that basically Dave Rubin is a careerist, where his goal is to up his career really over anything, and that's sort of his thing. Like, you know, I guess he said that Dave Rubin asked Kyle, you know, what's your end goal? And it's very, you know, clear that he's basically someone who is just trying to push his career forward regardless of ideology. This is going to be pretty evident here. He's literally going to talk about it right now. And then he's going to talk about what the left and the right need to do.
I'm happy to do that.
Well, so, you know, I think that we're moving toward the end of the show, unfortunately, but I want to ask you, where do you think that you are going in the next 5 years? So obviously you've been doing this for 3 or 4 years with all the interviews. What do you think is the future for Dave Rubin? You know, fast forward 5 years down the line.
I mean, I get all kinds of crazy offers. And fortunately, because my audience has been good to me and what we're doing on Patreon, I've said no to things that would make me a lot more money. I mean, than I'm making right now. And I know that I'm in a great position to figure out what I truly want to do. I mean, look, I built a home studio. My commute.
It's a nice studio, yeah.
Yeah, but my commute is 10 steps, not 10 minutes, 10 steps from my bedroom. That's pretty good. We've built a small, lean, strong business. You know, we pay all of our employees health insurance and all kinds of other benefits and all that. And I'm so proud of what we've built. And it's so consistent with the ideas that I'm constantly talking about. So look, people ask me all the time, like, one of these days is it's most likely going to be Fox, I would guess, because CNN and MSNBC don't seem to want to do anything with that. Well, CNN will put you on every now and again.
Only then I knock one of their hosts off.
No, I know your smackdown of Stelter was pretty sweet. But look, could one of these places make me an offer that it would be crazy for me to say no to? And I don't mean that just because of money, because it's not about that for me.
About
I'm
the reach.
fine. I'm happy, really. I'm content with what I'm doing. I want it to grow, but I'm in a good spot. But yes, if you really believe in what you're doing, you want it to get to as many people as possible. So could one of those offers come, and then I'm going to have to make some kind of Sophie's choice or something? Yeah, it could come, and I look forward to it coming, and we'll see what happens. But I would say, in terms of what I really want, I want these conversations to continue. I truly, truly believe this. We, Ben, are now part of something that is resetting the system. I really believe that the whole country, the dialogue, social media, everything got so out of whack, so haywire, that Trump possibly was the only thing that could have rebooted it. But we're now in the reboot phase. That's not a commentary on Trump. I believe we're in the reboot phase now. You know, it's like when you press reset on Nintendo and you get back to the beginning and now you got to play again. I think we've hit that button. And now it's like, holy cow, there is fertile ground for good ideas. So if I can continue being part of that conversation, keep finding allies where 3 years ago I would have found enemies, keep being a part of what you're doing, what all of these guys who we've mentioned ad nauseum now here are doing, it's like, how cool is that?
It is really neat.
You know,
and it's fun.
Yeah,
it's really a lot of fun.
You know, I walk down the street and people, first off, I walk down the street, people say, may the force be with you. I mean, that's amazing. But people literally, some guy was walking down the street the other day, some guy just yelled out classical liberalism and gave me a high five, and we just kept walking. I'm like, holy cow, like, ideas are taking root. And look, we live in crazy times, so let's try to fix it a little bit. Otherwise, what the hell are we doing?
Exactly. So, okay, so we've got 3 minutes left. So speaking of fixing it, give me the one thing that the right needs to do, and then give me the one thing that the left needs to do if we want to have a country in 5 years.
So the left, look, what they've needed to do is exactly what I was trying to get them to do, was please rein in your most extreme forces. Unfortunately, they're simply unable to do it because of the oppression Olympics, because of how identity politics works, and because of grouping people based on immutable characteristics in a constant competition. They have the idea that intersectionality makes them stronger, like it's going to be like, you know, a couple Decepticons forming Devastator, right? Like it's going to be a bigger, better robot. But that's not how it works. It becomes a bigger, crippled monster. And So I don't know at this point if there's anything that they can do right now. I would love, believe me, if there was a decent Democrat out there, if there was a blue dog Democrat, like an old school, if Ed Koch magically reappeared, or Daniel Patrick Moynihan, or JFK, you know what they all have in common? They're dead. But if those people actually reappeared and said, we're going to try to fix what is wrong with the Democratic Party instead of going the Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris route, I'd be freaking thrilled. I would be thrilled. It's not going to happen. What the right can do, and I think you can be a big part of this, there is such an opening for you guys right now where all of the sane people that have just had it with this nonsense are going to start pushing your way. I think you've done a really nice job of sitting down with these people. And I think the more that can take root in conservatism, the agree to disagree, which I think is pretty much happening, but the more that truly takes root, where you guys go, you know, we're going to have to be okay with the idea of pro-choice. We don't have to put it in our party platform or whatever, but like we're gonna have to find some allies that believe some different stuff as us. And the more that you guys do that, I think you will have incredible, an incredible ability to build something new. And that would be something that I would be proud to be part of. And at this point, I think you're gonna find it very easy to do, actually. So that's what I hope will happen. And then suddenly there'll be this new party or new movement that will be the widest tent, and it will only be the widest tent because the other guys pushed us all out.
Exactly. Well, this is the part where we grip our hands like Rocky III and form giant biceps, and it's incredible.
Can we do Rocky IV? We'll go to Russia and fight on Christmas Day. We'd get serious numbers.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm not sure I could take you. You've been working out, I hear.
I've lost 17.
All right, so that was really quite funny. So if you guys didn't see how he had, like, you know, it's not for the money. It's not for the money. The fact that Dave Rubin had to throw that in there in the first place, it shows that he has a really big sensitivity spot for people who are calling him out for being a sellout and a fraud, because he deep down inside, he knows that that's what he is. Forget deep down inside, maybe even on the outside, he knows that that's true, and he probably does even on the outside, but he knows it. And, you know, just like he's blocking a bunch of people for, you know, tweeting the meme at him that I made, you know, calling him a sellout, he knows, like, he's sensitive to that. And so otherwise, there really would be no other reason to mention that. Like, why would you mention the money? Because you're a political commentator and, you know, like, let's say, I don't know, Kyle Kulinski was talking about, you know, the possibility of going on some mainstream media news network. Would something that would come up money? Like, no, like, you just kind of brought that up because it's obviously a sensitive point for you, and it's pretty hilarious to see. And so what you see from him, the description of him being a careerist could not have been more correct. Now, I mean, obviously, the more things that you do, the more cemented you are in your career. And it's very, very apparent and very, very clear that Dave Rubin is indeed a careerist. He doesn't really care about actual ideology. He doesn't have any political convictions or any political principles. He just simply, you know, does whatever is best for his career. He doesn't care whether he's talking about libertarianism or whether he's talking about progressivism or whatever he's talking about. He doesn't care. He doesn't care at all. There's no care in the world because, you know what? It's just a means to an end. His end is having a political career where he can make money. And by the way, Dave Rubin is a big reason why he did that is because he's a huge failed comedian. So basically, he attempted to be a comedian, and he failed epically because he was probably historically the least funny comedian ever, like among Steven Crowder. And so his outlet was, I need to go into politics. And so that adds more to the storyline of Dave, fraud, sellout, Rubin, who's all about and you saw him in there. It comes off that he's really self-aggrandizing. Like, he genuinely thinks that he's some sort of social influencer who is making the political climate talk about ideas. And there's nothing cringier than Dave Rubin invoking the ideas term because it's very convoluted. We just don't know what he's talking about when he says that. When he says ideas, it's purposefully vague, it's purposefully lacking nuance and any detail whatsoever. It's super bland, because again, the guy is a careerist, so he's really self-aggrandizing when he does that. And also, did you notice there how he said, you know, that's not a commentary on Trump? Like, why would you say that? I don't understand that. Like, that's another thing that he's trying to do. He doesn't want to, in any way, shape, or form, he doesn't want to alienate any of his fans to make it seem like, you know, he's actually criticizing Trump. Remember, he was the guy who said that he would hold his feet to the fire. That, you know, I think his interview style is give them enough rope just to hang themselves. So this guy obviously has not delivered on that. The guy's a complete fraud. He didn't call it Trump for anything whatsoever. He just continues on his dumb ideas train, which doesn't mean anything. But I thought that was really telling there too. And this is just a whole careerist basically, you know, thing. And then saying that there's a reboot after Trump. I don't get how it's a reboot. I mean, to me, how is Trump being a utilizer of social media a reboot for social media? I mean, I fail to understand how that's not just adding, just, you know, throwing, you know, just, you know, gasoline at a fire. I don't understand how that's not doing that. And he says, like, the guy just came up to him and said, classical liberalism, high five. Really weird stuff, man. Very weird stuff. Now, so that was all about the careerism stuff. The second part of this clip is him talking about what the left needs to do and what the right needs to do. Now, so he legitimately believes that the left needs a blue dog Democrat. Now, blue dog Democrats are conservative Democrats. That's what that is. If you look it up, it's basically, I believe it was a caucus found in like mid 1990s, so around during the Clinton administration, and it's fiscally conservative, and I believe maybe even socially conservative Democrats. So this guy thinks, and this is the most hilarious part about this, and this is what always makes me laugh. Whenever you see Republicans trying to give, just think about any party giving opposition advice, period, even Democrats giving Republicans advice, you probably don't want to trust that advice because there's an obvious, straightforward, basic, very upfront conflict of interest there, right? Because on the one hand, you're supposed to give a sobering, objective, legitimate, effective, advice on what to do. And then on the other hand, you want to beat them. So obviously there's a conflict of interest going on there. Now, the fact that he thinks that, or, you know, just him saying that Dave Rubin saying, and this is something we've gone over a lot, is this guy is so delusional that he thinks that Hillary wasn't a blue dog Democrat. Hillary was absolutely basically a blue dog Democrat. I mean, she didn't want Medicare for all, right? She didn't want free college. She was purposefully bland and vague on her policy positions, and she opposed Bernie Sanders on those things. She sided with conservatives from time to time on things, and she said we just need to keep the ACA, which, by the way, the ACA was a conservative plan that was the alternative to single payer, just so you guys know, which I'm sure you guys already know. But the idea that post-2016 election, you could make a comment this dumb and be treated as anything other than the biggest imbecile on the entire planet is really laughable to me, because Hillary Clinton was basically your poster girl for blue dog, being a blue dog Democrat, being a super centrist, okay, being barely left of center, barely. Okay, she was the absolute picture of that. And so this guy thinks that somehow the answer isn't to go more left and go in a Bernie Sanders direction. No, the answer is to go more in the blue dog Democrat direction. This is quite possibly the most inaccurate political analysis I've ever seen in my entire life. Because as we know, what did the polls say about Bernie versus Trump? Bernie was landslide mashing in the polls. Hillary Clinton, of course, lost. And the polls, people are morons. They think the polls are wrong. The polls had them tied on election day nationally. And so she won the popular vote. He won the electoral college vote. So the polls weren't wrong. And it was the dumb pollsters who gave their analyses expounding on that, like where Huffington Post said like 99.9% chance. Hilariously dumb. But those weren't the raw poll. That wasn't the raw polling data. But again, this is the dumbest thing possible. Dave Rubin is dead wrong on this, objectively speaking, as we know from the polling data between Trump and Sanders and Trump and Clinton. And no, the answer is not for the left to go more centrist. No, the answer is for the left to go more left towards Bernie. Not off the rails left, all right? I'm not talking about communism here. I'm not a communist. I despise communists. But go more towards social democracy like we have in all other developed nations. We want We want universal health care through the form of Medicare for all. We want free college education. It's very, very doable, as I've broken down. Military budget increase, $700 billion over 10 years. We revert that over to free college education. Boom, it's paid for, just like that. Very easy. Or you could do 1% Wall Street speculation tax. Anyways, the next thing that he says is he's telling the conservatives to like just harbor everybody. I don't really understand that. I mean, like if I were Ben Shapiro sitting in the chair right now, at that time, sorry, I wouldn't have, I would have been like, what? Like pro-choice in the Republican Party? Get out of here, man. And so I'm surprised that Ben Shapiro didn't really flip out on that. Now, I know Ben Shapiro sort of been slighted in a few ways on there, like when Joe Rogan went on his liberal spouting and Ben Shapiro didn't look too excited about that. But I would have been pretty unsure. I would have been uneasy. I would have been like, what? What are you talking about, dude? Like, no way. We don't want pro-choice people in here. Then that's totally undercutting the entire conservative movement. So conclusion being here is Dave Rubin is a sellout, a careerist, a joke who doesn't actually care about political positions, but just furthering his career, making more money, and that he has no clue. He's the worst analyst of politics to ever exist in the history of ever.